demon came to visit yesterday, my husband, and he brought with him a long-awaited arrival, the tarot Obscuro. So I said that I was interested in doing one of the tarot tags, and one of the questions in the one that I'm thinking of doing was, what deck do you wish was more talked about? And this is the deck that I wish was more talked about. So I thought, well, why don't I talk about it? Since I just got it, and my impressions of it are quite fresh. I wanted a serious shadow deck. Something quite provocative, even transgressive. I was also looking for a tarot deck that would be a suitable companion for the brilliant Tree Whisper Oracle, but I think I found a deck that is a very good match for that, although I might try it with this one, I don't know. So, yesterday when it came, or when Demon came, we spent quite a bit of time looking at the cards. He is only learning how to read tarot cards, and he's only just learned, so he doesn't really have anything memorized, and I find that invaluable in getting a first impression of the cards, because I've been reading the cards for a long time, and so you can't really undo that, since I know what the cards mean in the Pamela Coleman Smith RW sense. I'm always trying to put those meanings into the cards, even on a first impression, although sometimes that's just not possible. Sometimes, and I love that when that happens. I love it when a deck really has a voice of its own. That's what I really love about my old friend, the Deviant Moon. So this deck came with 2 extra cards, which I've displayed here, a key and a locked heart. And I really, really like that. I think that's just wonderful. There's a beautiful card that is included in the guide you have to download, which I will have printed. Oh, there's likely to be quite a bit of background noise. I live across from a public beach, and there are a lot of tourists in this heat, as you can imagine. And the dogs go nuts. Anyway. All right, fellas, that's enough. I don't usually discourage them. I sort of wish I could bark at the tourists too. But anyway. I like that on the key there is that wheel, a wheel of fortune, the wheel of destiny, the wheel of dharma. The idea that, well, you know, what goes around comes around. Anyhow, let's get on to the cards themselves. Oh, this is going to be very clumsy because I don't have any editing abilities. I don't even have a proper computer at the moment. I just have a notebook, so I can't really store anything that requires a lot of memory. But the whole point of these exercises is just to get myself accustomed to making videos of any sort. Just doing it. And I have already written down. So we went through all of the cards. I'm going to put them up in groups of 7, I think. And recorded Demon's first impressions. And then today, I went and augmented those impressions with my own. Okay. I always kind of think of the High Priestess and the Empress as sisters. So my support underneath this isn't perfectly level. But that's okay. 4, 5. Well, maybe I'll have to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, because we have the Fool in this lineup. So I'll do it in 5s, I guess. That's really all I got room for. There they are, all in a row. And you'll notice right away, or the first thing I noticed about this deck, even before I did purchase it, was how pointy they all are. And so, first impression, pointiness. So what shall I do here? Shall I just wing it and give my first impressions without referring? Here are my notes right here. Here we go. Maybe I will. Maybe I will just talk about them. Perhaps I'll refer to the notes here and there, but by this time I have also read the guide, which was disappointingly orthodox in some ways, with some interesting changes. The artist who created this deck says that she is relatively new to tarot, so that was kind of interesting as well. Oh, look, the Fool has leaped off on a journey. Okay, so the Fool. Well, he doesn't especially strike one as an innocent character, does he? And he is wearing a sort of armor. So Demon's first word for the Fool was disdain, that he looks disdainful. And I augmented that with, he's sort of world weary, you know? I'm not so sure he wants to leap off into another adventure. In fact, what did I say? Oh, yes, already world weary, trial by fire, no innocence at all. Yes, trial by fire, so that's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, if you think about what tarot is in relation to Kabbalah, the tree of life, you know, that the Fool is sort of Kether leaping into the material world and doing that infinitely. And you think of Brahma dreaming the material world into existence, and I guess occasionally Brahma has a nightmare. So despite the material world being something of an illusion, it is where we actually experience things like little bugs crawling on you. And I think the idea of a world-weary Fool is sort of appropriate. It's not Kether's first time around, after all. So, with an air of perhaps self-sacrifice, the Fool ventures forth in his armor for another trial by fire, because this is no warm fuzzy deck, Tarot Obscuro. No, it is not. It is a true shadow deck, for which I am very grateful, because life is just not always fun. So, now we have the Magician. And we'll do the Magician and the Fool. Get them both in, just to get them in the frame. There you can see Nadia kind of blurrily back there. And that, I keep thinking witch, but the guide refers to the magician as a he, and of course the magician is a he traditionally. I suppose, you know, they really are a they. But this magician, so Demon, what Demon's take on the magician was that this was a kind of more nature-oriented sort of magician. And what else? What else did he have to say? Natural magic. Oh, look, I'm trying to read this on the screen. That's a good idea. Natural magic. Distillation of poisons guided by a dark star. Fleur de mal. That was mine. All Demon had was natural magic. The distillation of poisons guided by a dark star. Fleur de mal. Fleur de mal. Yes. So kind of an evil magician. Now, I've sort of done that deliberately. I've kind of decided that this is going to be a shadow deck, and I am deliberately putting the darkest spin on things that I can, because that's kind of the point, I think. I don't know. I have a bit of a headache today, which is actually kind of beneficial for thinking dark thoughts. So, and Fleur de Mal is my favorite book of poetry by Charles Baudelaire. And, well, I don't know about you, but those kind of look like Fleur de Mal, as far as I can see. The distillation of poisons, guided by an evil star. Well, that's the fool's first encounter, and an interesting one it will be. Will they collaborate? Will the magician try and kill the fool? Trial by fire, after all. Well, it does bear thinking about. So if, what does it mean? What does it mean if the archetypes on the path of tarot are not there to help you, but to try and kill you? So we're going to consider the High Priestess and the Empress together, because as I say, I often think of them as sisters, sort of like Inanna and Ereshkigal, of the Sumerian deities. And the High Priestess, I think she is sprinkling ashes and illness from her open hands, and she is guarding secrets quite jealously, although she does look rather sorrowful for the plight of those in a dark world. And the Empress has her eyes closed, as if she cannot bear to look upon the abominations she has given birth to and what they do. Pointy, sharp realities. Did I have anything else to say about those two? Let's see. Oh, Chris just watched a Snow White movie, so his first impression of the High Priestess was Maleficent, and we thought she looked like she was levitating. Malevolent secrets, ash and illness falling from her hands. In the Empress, bad witch, sorrow at the horrors and suffering of life. She closes her eyes rather than look upon the abominations she has brought forth. Well, since we're here, Demon's only comment upon the Emperor was mean-spirited. He wears a crown made from the horns of the animals he loves to murder. He is pleased by how heavy it is. He loves to dominate all he surveys and revels in his ruthlessness. There he is, the ruthless emperor. Well, he's a fitting representative of patriarchy. I don't really need to dwell on the, the downside of the patriarchy. The Hierophant. So the Hierophant is a complicated card for me. It is my soul card, and it is also my year card this year. I just can't escape the Hierophant, and I have a great deal of trouble with it. I'm a little bit, what is that called? Oppositional defiance disorder. I have a bit of that. Anyway, I feel kind of sorry for him. My first impression, in all honesty, was that he looks to me like a child that's been set in a corner with a dunce cap on. But then I thought, well, how can that be the Hierophant? he is extremely triangular and pointy at the top, so I ended up with kind of viewing him more as a inquisitor. And he does have a rather grim aspect, as do most of the characters in this deck, which is one of the things I really, really loved about it. So let's see what I had to say about the Hierophant. Focused upon total obedience, those who question his authority in any way are instantly impaled upon his pointy dunce cap. Okie dokie. On to the next few. I am listening to a channel called Sacred Soundscapes. Which I find especially conducive to reading tarot cards. So I know you have to be careful about playing music on videos in case you get in trouble, but I'm hoping that not enough people will watch this that it'll matter. And if it does, then I do want to give credit to Sacred Soundscapes, the channel Sacred Soundscapes, because I listen to them often, and I don't want to do anything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to stick with 5. Okay, lovers. Alrighty, I'm not giving you the meanings in the guide because there are some interesting, she does have some interesting idiosyncrasies, but for the most part, her interpretations of the cards are disappointingly orthodox. Well, I will say though that what that is in her hand, in their hands, Demon had nothing to say about this at all. The Lovers, but that is a wind rose, you know, something you would put up on a gable and it would blow in the wind, and I really kind of like that, the idea of a compass. The usual spread I use for reading tarot cards is one that I came up with myself, and it's called the compass. So that was kind of resonant. The other interesting thing about, you can just barely make out her arm at her side. And I've tried magnifying this and changing the contrast and everything, but she, according to the artist, is holding a scythe, which I find very interesting, you know? It's very, very enigmatic, these cards. I love them so much. So, the first thing upon looking at their stance and the way they're looking at each other is, this is not necessarily always a harmonious love affair. What did we have to say? Maybe I should just get the book up here so I don't have to spend so much time. Ugh. My great big sketchbook. Lovers. Yeah, so Chris had nothing to say about them at all. Demon. What is the distance between love and hate? Where will you go when your back is against the wall? What is your commitment? What is your commitment, regardless of how the wind may blow? Oh, I liked that best. Regardless of how the wind may blow, what is your commitment? Because I think that compromise and commitment are sort of the foundation of true love. That if you love a person, a thing, a situation, whatever it is that you do love, requires both commitment and compromise. Now that scythe that we cannot see, I like that, the scythe that we cannot see but know is in her hand, could be the severing of love. The severing of love. Eve used a scythe to cut the apple from the tree. And what would that mean if she did? Anyhow, thinking he better look out. Perhaps she would cut the windrose, sever the commitment, the breaking of promises. The breaking of promises, commitment and the breaking of promises. The lovers. Hard choices. You know, one always thinks about the intoxication of falling in love, but it involves a lot of choice, and not always easy choices either. What else can I say about this card? There was something in my mind just a moment ago that has slipped away. So we will move on. To the Chariot. My. Well, the Chariot. Isn't that something? Oh, I just love this deck. So, what do I have to say about the Chariot? Okay, what Chris had to say right off the bat was the Black Death. And I added poverty, weariness, despair. Your will counts for nothing, but keeps you wandering the streets, scavenging for any scraps that might keep you alive. On a more positive note, as someone who does wander the streets scavenging quite often, is you often find treasures in unexpected places. So there is that, the will to always be looking for hidden treasures. But I'm not looking for the bright side in these cards. No, I'm not. I want these cards to have a darkness, which I think unarguably they kind of do. Strength. Well, look at him. All right, so Chris and Demon are the same person. Demon is what I usually call him. It's funny, it's interesting that I am using his name because usually I just call him Chris when I'm speaking to strangers. And when it's just him and I always call him Demon. So I think I'll try and call him Demon when I'm making these videos because I'm not really talking to strangers. Candy, if you're watching this, thank you so much for watching these videos. Please don't feel obliged to do so. They're just self-indulgent rambling. Anyhow, I like your videos very much, Candy, if you are watching, just as an aside. Anyway, Strength. A very, very different personification than one usually sees. So Chris's first impression of this card was manual labor. And my first impression of this card was that he is bloody-handed. And so what I written down was manual labor, murder for hire, counting your kills with a bejeweled third eye. Yes. I kind of thought, I said to Chris, I was hoping that in the guide it would say something about the design on his chest, but it doesn't. I kind of thought, what is that? Is it a map? Is he trying to break free of some kind of prison? And then all the dots is like maybe it's a star map. And eventually I arrived at a tally of his kills. You know how prisoners sometimes mark the days. You see them in a prison cell. But he does have a jewel hanging on his forehead. Look at that face. This deck where you can see the faces of the characters, they are extraordinary. Murder for hire would certainly be manual labor. And the Hermit. The Hermit. And Chris said, strength in solitude. That was his initial impression. And mine was similar, except that I think it had more to do with anonymity. Strength in anonymity. Strength of solitude. The peaceful repose of being unseen. That was what I thought. He is an excellent hermit, that's for sure. The Wheel of Fortune, so that was Chris and I both thought it was more like the Wheel of Misfortune. Yes, that's what we wrote down. The Wheel of Misfortune. Where is it? Oh yeah, for the Chariot, Chris saw the Black Death. Wheel of Misfortune. The Grinding Stone of Destiny. Wheel of Misfortune, the Grinding Stone of Destiny. Well, there you go. Yeah, the Black Death, Chris. Sure, it looks like something out of a Bosch painting. That's probably where he got that from. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to have to order this deck later on. Well, maybe not. Let's see. I think we'll only do the Major Arcana today because this is taking a long time. Not that I'm in any hurry or anything, but okay. Justice. Now, this one was kind of interesting because Chris and I both got something out of it that wasn't in the guide at all, and seemed kind of obvious. Oh, this soundscape is just the perfect one for this deck. So I hope I don't get in trouble for using it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alrighty. Aren't they interesting all together too? What an interesting world she's created. So Justice here. I love this Justice card. Chris and I both thought she looks shackled to that bar. Shackled to balance. And look at her lovely face. Weary, resigned to being shackled to balance. Something crucifixion-like for sure as well. And that heavy chain around her neck. But she's up on a pedestal, looking very much as if she wishes she could come down. Something of a paradoxical. She looks somewhat like a crucifixion, and somewhat like a medieval depiction of somebody in the pillory. You know, pilloried in that thing where they put your head and hands in the device. So that's an interesting, the burden of justice, the weight of justice, very clearly conveyed. This is the Hanged Man, and I at first I thought, I just don't get it. But then I thought, actually, that's really, really clever. Again, the kind of implication of crucifixion, and I think that one of the meanings of the Hanged Man in some decks is self-sacrifice. Chris Demon said that he thought the shadows were wrong, and so do I. But upon reflection, my impression was that the hangman has run off naked into the wilderness. And let's see what, maybe I'll just read these rather than... Oh, Demon thought, hanging loose, run naked into the wilderness. That's really all we had. But I kind of like that. The Hanged Man has changed his perspective. He's abandoned all earthly possessions and run off naked into the wilderness. And why not? I think that's an excellent idea. Death. Demon's first words, right away, as soon as he saw it, were playful. Playful. Yeah, and so I augmented that simply with a merciful friend to the long-suffering. I remember my father once telling me that, I don't remember what country it was, but that there was a country where the average lifespan was 45, and that the population largely it was a life of hard labor. And I said, well, if every day was a life of hard labor, and let me tell you, I know a thing or two about hard labor, then yeah, a lifespan of 45 years might be a mercy. This is temperance. Now, what do you think of that? Temperance. And Demon said, she's impaled by that pole. And I thought, no, surely not. But yes, in the actual guide, it says that she is impaled by the pole. My first thought upon looking at this was lead balloons. Lead balloons. And so what I wrote for this one was precarious balance, impaled by lead balloon, the only thing keeping you from falling off the edge. Yeah, keeping your balance on those days when the only thing that is preventing you from falling off the edge is being impaled by a lead balloon. And a lead balloon, I don't know about you, but that could certainly describe an awful lot of the employment I have had in my life. So Demon, when he saw this, said, dear friend, and I added to that by saying, the merciful distractions of addiction. Dear friend, the merciful distractions of addiction. I am no stranger to addictions either. In fact, collecting is a form of addiction for me. I wouldn't say it is for everybody, but it certainly is for me. But it, compared to other kinds of addictions that I have had over the years, it's a pretty benevolent one. And I'm working on relinquishing them and going. But I've always been a collector, but mostly what I've collected over the years are things that I find and don't cost any money at all. Feathers and stones. Oh, speaking of stones, so an interesting thing. This is a shadow deck, as I is very clear. Oh, let me continue to put these things up. But I will do a little interesting aside. We've lost our soundscape. I think we will go back to the beginning. Yeah, so I have some beautiful, lovely, pretty decks, and I love them too, and they're very valuable. But I really did want some pretty hard-hitting shadowy type decks, and so the other one I got is a totally computer-generated one that my daughter also has. So then I thought it would be interesting for her and I to, and she got the deck for her birthday in May, given to her by her best friend. So I got the exact same deck on my birthday so that we could use the same deck to play with on the phone. But it's a shadow deck for sure, and an intentional shadow deck, completely computer generated, called Air Ethereal. And when I first did, I did the same thing. When I always do this with a deck, any kind of deck, is when I get it, before I read the guide or anything, I just document my first impressions of each of the cards, or the Major Arcana, not always the Minor Arcanas, although I have other things I do with them. But when I did so for quite some time, I've been looking for hagstones. There's a lot of stones. The river that I live beside here, there's lots and lots of river rocks. And I thought, well, maybe I will find a hagstone. And after I got the Air Ethereal deck, the dogs interrupted me. They were really insistent about wanting to go out. And so I thought, well, what the heck, it's been a while. So I stopped what I was doing, my analysis of the Air Ethereal deck. And there was nobody at the public beach across the road that day. So we went over there and were wandering about over there, and lo and behold, I found a hagstone. Oh, no, like I said, I've been looking. It's kind of a big, cumbersome hagstone, but look. So that was the hagstone I found when working with the shadow deck. Ethereal, that's the moon we're looking at through the hagstone. This one, I went through the deck. Chris had to go off and get rock salt for the water softener. So while he was gone, I was looking through this deck, and then I didn't want to go any further without his input. And so it's kind of cool how the moon is sort of highlighted right there like that. So I went down to our beach here on the river, and I was just kind of wandering around with the dogs. And in the water, I saw this hagstone. So these shadow decks have given me hagstones. I just love that so much. Might not be able to focus on. This was a nice one to find because it's a lot less cumbersome than the bigger one. So I've kind of got a pocket hagstone and a floor model hagstone. Huh. How cool is that? It's got a little fossil there too. All right, back to work here. But I thought there was something very special about that these shadow decks have given me a hagstone to see the world in a different way. I didn't, when I was growing up, I knew about these hagstones, but they were fairy stones. Anyway, the tower. All right, now something that isn't said about the tower that I'm going to point out right now, when I got the camera, is he's missing a foot. Look at that. He's missing a foot. And there he is, sitting there dejectedly, with only one leg to stand on because he's missing a foot. And then, what else did we have to say about the tower? Just one leg to stand on. The Tower of Iron Breasts is a complete stranger to the milk of human kindness. Those who suckle here are immobilized by rust. They kind of look like breasts, I thought. Breasts. And perhaps he has been suckling to no avail. The cold mother of this tower. This is the star, one of my favorite cards, but, the star represents hope, and, well, I'm sure many of you know about the story of Pandora, so hope, this is a rather dangerous portrayal of hope, which I like, beautiful still, but more dangerous than hope is usually portrayed as. And one of my favorite quotes about hope is from Herman Melville in Moby Dick, where he characterizes hope as that jackal in a graveyard. Hope, that jackal in a graveyard. So that kind of describes beautiful, but yes, the dangers of hope. I think she characterizes that dangerous element of hope that the star could have. Now, Demon, when he saw this is the moon, he just said puppet. But I think, like in the Deviant Moon, oh, there's a little spider crawling on me. Hello, madam. Can I let you down? Hang on a second here. Go on. Take a look at those cards. In Deviant Moon, the moon is a puppet master. And so I sort of see that in this, it's kind of implicit in this one, I think, as well, the puppet master. And I've put, we are puppets, ancient cold wisdom pulling our veins like strings. And I was thinking blood and the tidal pull of the moon, how we are guided by, we are so taught that our will, the cult of the individual and all of the self-determination, we are taught that these things have, that we are the authors of our own destiny, but, I have never believed that ever. So I think that there are more things at play in what happens to you than you will ever know. And this black sun, this black, rough sun made me think of the Soundgarden song, Black Hole Sun, won't you come and dry and wash away the rain. Wash away the rain. The video that goes with that song is perfectly sums up what I feel about the suburbs. So that's what I see. This black hole sun, a dark sun that shines on the wicked. Alrighty. Oh, so the last of the Major Arcana is the World. And we'll put her up there all on her own. The World. I think that's an awesome one. She's sitting on a mountain. Chris says, well, the demon says, if that's the world, then what's she sitting on? And, so I explained about the Tree of Life and worlds within worlds. But she's sitting on a mountain. In the guide, that's what it says. And he thought it was the moon and that she was sitting on the earth. And so we had a little bit of conversation about the world. And so, this is, there she is, in between one world and the next, I would say. And what I have written for her is, the weight of the world is all in your head, but it will crush you just the same. And so, we have reached the end of the Major Arcana of the Tarot Obscuro. And I think I will continue with this on subsequent days, and we will do the suits. So, the expanded discussion of this deck that I wanted to see, I have now begun. Goodbye.